I don't have a video of me removing the old RAM chip, well, the 16 gigabyte RAM chip. So in my previous video, I modified two Pi 5s with a 16 gigabyte RAM chip. Now the firmware doesn't support that size of a RAM chip, so the Pi 5 doesn't boot up at all. So it's basically, instead of having two bricks or paperweights of a Pi, I decided to demod one so I can get the other one functional. Now the one I've removed, this 16 gigabyte RAM chip, as you can see here, it came off quite well. You can still see most of the balls are still there. I was quite surprised with that. But this one that I've demodded was a 4 gigabyte one, and now the RAM chip I have there, which I've manually reballed, is a 8 gigabyte one. So I'm going to install this 8 gig onto that Pi 5. The process here is, once I've cleaned up the board, I then apply a little bit of flux paste, and just a very small amount. If you put too much, I find that the chip just kind of floats around and moves out of its position. Now I'm very cautious with the positioning. As you can see here, I take a lot of time. This video is sped up, I don't know, 4 times or something, and I'm very cautious with making sure that the chip is in the right position. I found that if it's not in the ideal spot, it has a chance that when you apply your heat and as the solder starts to reflow, it may want to go to another row of pads. So you'll end up a whole row of pads out, or it'll just be twisted, and it's basically game over from that point, because you got to remove the chip, then you have to clean the chip up, manually reball it. I do the manual reball method because I find that I have the most success with that method. I do have a stencil for this chip, but I've never had any success with the stencil. Maybe it's because it's a really cheap stencil, but yeah. So as you can see, I take it out of view here where I'm trying to look side on to make sure that I have the position of the chip in the best possible spot to avoid any errors. Now when applying the heat, I am using a very cheap heat gun that's probably not the best for this kind of application, but as soon as I finished this, I went and invested in a small desktop hot plate just on Amazon. I think it's called the MHP50. It's just a small hot plate, 5 centimeters by 5 centimeters, but it gets up to about 450 degrees. It's actually really good for using on small PCBs if you just want to try and remove stuff. But I found that when doing it with the Pi, obviously the Pi is the size of a credit card, the hot plate's a little bit too small, but it gives just enough heat so that when you're applying the heat with the heat gun, it doesn't dissipate that quickly. So there you go. Okay, so I've just removed the 16 gigabyte RAM chip and installed the 8 gigabyte RAM chip, and yeah, a little bit of heat damage there. And I've connected it up to the UART diagnostic, and I'm going to plug it in and see what we get. Hopefully I've done this correctly and it's going to actually work, because that would kind of suck if it doesn't. So we want 115200. I think it's port 8, shouldn't change, none. 8 and 1, yes. So that's that, display that. That should change one stop bit. Cool. Okay. little guy says it's on. Plug power into this. I'll try to do this one hand. No, not going to happen. So if I plug this in here, oh, get a red light. It's not really what I was hoping for. Oh. Oh. Well, look at that. Hey. Well, I think it works. Let's try and scroll up. Scroll down. So, yes, I think it's working. I think it's just trying to boot something and it can't find anything. So if we scroll to the top there, 1.25 seconds, boot release. Look at that. Chip ID. Micron 32-bit. 32 gigabytes times 2, total size 64 gigabits, which is 8 gigabytes. Boom. Oh, that VC JTAG unlocked. RIPP. Sorry, I'm just kind of reading some of this stuff for my first time. I don't know how to freaking use this thing. Oh no. Is that it? Can't give me any more? Damn. Ooh! Clear this. Alright. Tap on again. Freeze. Freeze. Detected. Just trying to see if there's anything in here that I can help me try and unlock my this is the 16 gigabit version, the 16 gigabyte RAM chip in there, and yeah, I figured it could take a while before either the Pi engineers do some sort of firmware update, if it's even possible. So I figured I'll just, instead of having two dead Raspberry Pis, I'll just put an 8 gig chip back in there and get it actually functional. And if and when this can ever get working again, then I'll think about modding this one. But I'm happy I've got this other Pi 5 of mine functional again. Just reading here the boot load sequence. So last time it was getting up to total RAM, and then it'll be error code 9, RAM size unsupported. And obviously the next step of this is, I'm assuming this must be like the registers that they talk about, the, you know, it pings the registers, and if I'm not mistaken, that 4267, so that must be this, and then 4267 1 0 1 0 1 0. Yeah, I don't know what that is, but this is obviously 64 gigabits, which would be an 8 gigabit one, and then 1512. What does 1512 mean? No idea. No idea. No idea. Board revision, boot ROM, blah blah blah, customer key hash. This is interesting. JTAG's unlocked. And then the RP, firmware size for the RP1 boot. And then it starts to initialize all the rest of the crap. Cool. And then what? Then it goes again. Reset wake. Not detected. And then it starts looking for USB, SD. If I'm not mistaken, this one should have the latest brains in it anyway. Alright, well, there you go. Successfully removed the 16 gigabyte RAM chip, installed the 8 gigabyte RAM chip, and it's all good. So I've just installed the latest EEPROM, and I was just out of curiosity for anyone else. This is actually the sequence. As you can see, 1.66 seconds on the time log. EEPROM signature, checked. There's the hash. It's good. Don't know what that means. Then it's reading the EEPROM, the size, and then whatever that 2.84, the load time. Bootloader is up to date. Secure boot provision program public key 0. And yeah, as we know, continuously flashing green light. If this was plugged into the HDMI, you would see a green screen, which means that the load is successful. Or you can have the little UART debug connected and you can see this information.